Hello? Hello. Okay, I have one viewer. I should have Q&A launched. But for some reason it's telling me it's disabled. So I'm gonna continue. I think what I'll do is I'll try to hear from you all from the Google Plus page. I imagine it's Loli and Anna Rundal. So I would love for you, if you're wanting to see your astral chart, I can use your astral chart as an example. If you would send me your details, you can send them as a message and I should receive them. Other than that, I'm going to start. So my name is Carolina. I'm not sure who's watching, so you may or may not know me already. I am very passionate about astrology, and I was inspired to do this video seeing that so many people had questions about it. And so I'm not sure where you all are at with astrology. I have been studying it for years now, and I essentially think about everything through astrology. Like everything has its language in astrology, and I'm very passionate about that. So I'm gonna start describing the zodiac, explaining it. I think, a lot of times it's like, oh, you may know about the sign Pisces, or you may know about Scorpio, but you may not have an idea of the whole zodiac, right? So let me see if I can screen share here. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here is an image I picked up. Let's see, are you seeing this? Yes, okay. This is, these are the images of the zodiac. So I see it as a circle, of course, like we do with the astral chart, we see it as a circle, right? And so it actually starts with Aries, even though here we see the first one is Aquarius. It begins with Aries and ends up in Pisces. So I can actually, I think a better way to show you would be through here. Okay, a second. So you can actually see the chart. I'll start here and I'll check to see. Okay, now what you're seeing on the desktop right now, okay, wonderful. Okay, hey. Okay, so what you're seeing on the desktop is astro.com. I love astro.com. This is what I use. So I definitely advise you, if you're learning about the charts, to use this. You get a free account and you can look up all these different things. I normally just look up the extended chart selection. So here you can see the whole. So this is mine. Okay. So mine is kind of, let me see. It's the signs line up very well with the zodiac scene. So this is my personal chart, and normally, I guess archetypically, or the zodiac without necessarily the signs lined up for you personally would start with Aries and Pisces. So here you can see that the first house starts with Aries and by the Pisces. Anyways, that's further on that you start learning about houses. But here I wanted to show Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, all of these into Pisces. Essentially, there are 12, so it starts with Aries, the ram. So this is what I really wanted to describe to you all. Okay, so Aries, the ram, is like the beginning energy. It's the fighter, the warrior, the ram that just, you know, has all this energy and it just wants to push forward. It's the baby of the zodiac. So this is a great way to really understand the zodiac. You start to recognize how it starts off with the baby. Ooh, it's really cold and now it's getting hot. Okay. It starts off with the baby and it essentially ends in Pisces, which is the you know, timelessness, like dream state and death, right? So it starts off with the ram, continues on to Taurus. And so from the baby, imagine a baby when it starts growing and it becomes a 2-year-old that starts to get to know about possessions. And it says, this is mine and that's yours. And so that is that Taurus energy. Taurus energy is all about values and possessions. And so Aries started off as, you know, the baby that wanted to experiment and wanted to try everything. And Taurus starts becoming like, oh no, I have my possessions and I know what is mine and what is yours. And so from there, Taurus goes on to become Gemini, which is the child that starts to learn language. So if you know about Gemini, the twins, you know, some people call them the good twin and the bad twin. That's all about the child learning to communicate, learning to just exchange words, you know, learning to exchange with its siblings. That's the Gemini energy. So you got Aries, the ram that wants to experiment. Taurus is the one that wants to exchange and learn about value and possessions. And Gemini wants to exchange within language and communication. And from there, you start to get the child that learns about its emotions. And so from, you know, the child before was starting to exchange and learn language and, you know its siblings, but now the child knows about family. So it's, you know, it starts really caring about mother and father and like the whole sense of the family. And it starts getting more into that knowledge of like, this is my family, this is my past, because Cancer starts to involve the past as well. So we got, just to recap, because I see there are more people joining us, Aries starts the zodiac. It wants to experiment. It's the baby of the zodiac. Taurus is about possessions and values. You know, it's the child that learns about what it owns and what it doesn't own. From there, Gemini wants to learn to communicate. Cancer is the baby that starts to recognize family and past and emotions and all of this. And then from there, it goes on to Leo. And Leo is all about self-expression. And so from there, you know, the baby becomes, say, a teenager or, you know, a tween or whatever. So it starts getting more into like, okay, I have talents in this world. I have things that I want to contribute and I'm ready to contribute them and put them out into the world. That is Leo energy. And so Leos, as you can see, you know, they're notorious for wanting to be the center of attention because they know who they are, or more, they know what they bring into the world. And then from there you have Virgo. And Virgo is, you know, the archetype is the virgin. She brushes her hair, she takes care of herself. So that starts to get into discipline. And so if you think about it with the process from the baby that grew, you know, into all of these stages, and you know, the last one was Leo, which is, you know, it knows what it brings into the world, its talents. Now it knows that it has to work and start creating a discipline for him or herself, or, you know, whoever this entity is. Like Virgo is all about discipline, job, day to day. So you can think, you know, possibly the teenager that starts to get a job and, you know, goes to school and now understands that they need to work for something. And it's just, you know, it's not even that big of a vision. It's simply the day-to-day work. So from there, it gets into Libra. And so I would like to think of this as college, for example. Libra is all about relationships too. And so you start to get, I don't know, more into adulthood, right? And start to learn about, okay, you know, this is my partner, you know, these are the other people around me and the other people that I really care about. And you start creating contracts with people in a way. And so Libra, the scales is very much about contracts. So sometimes, for example, you can see Libra in a long-term relationship, you know, that's like a contract they've made with another person. Or Libra is in a profession, you know, it's all about the language, the knowing how to charm and work and with the others, right? Okay, so moving on, then Scorpio gets into sex and death and transformation and all of this. So you've gone, you know, through the whole child teen stage, and by the time you get to Scorpio, this person is, you know, really, okay, there's something further than all of this. There's so much more than just work and the relationships, but, you know, other occult things like death, sex, other lives, past lives. You know, Cancer gets into this a bit, but then Scorpio as its own symbol really is all about looking deeper and getting to the deepest stuff that it can get to. And so from there, all this like soul searching then becomes this person that looks more at philosophy. And so Sagittarius is the archer, right? And so you have, you know, the half man. So I'm going to show you the images again, so it's not just me describing them to you. Okay. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so here are the symbols. So we're already at Sagittarius. So here you can see it. Sagittarius is half horse, half man, and it's an archer. So Sagittarius is all about that big vision, seeing the bigger picture, you know. And so Sagittarius already starts to become very much an adult, you know. That's that adult energy of like, okay, what is all of this about? You know, it's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger, you know, than what I'm seeing in this material world. And so it starts to really want to push past all of these boundaries. So Sagittarius is, of course, are the sign that, you know, really wants to explore, is all about philosophy and spirituality, because it's looking for those answers. What is this bigger picture? And then after Sagittarius, you get into Capricorn. And so that's that adult that now, you know, says, okay, well, I want to get my project in, you know. So it's very much, it could be career. Like, what is my career? What is that one thing that I'm committed to and ready to completely, you know, establish in my life? Maybe a family, maybe a house, you know, what am I going to build? So Capricorns are the architects in that sense. They're actually building from the ground up. What is my life path? And then after Capricorn is Aquarius. So after, you know, after all of that, it's like, wait a second, you know, life is even bigger than that. It's Aquarius is about humanity. Aquarius is about thought and really looking at, you know, this container that is the world. So as you can see, Aquarius is holding on to a container of water and it's pouring water. And so Aquarius is independent, but is very concerned about humanity. And then lastly is Pisces, and it's the two fish. And Pisces is all about finally ending all of that ego space and getting into a place of death, of, you know, of just selflessness. But of course, it's the two fish that are going in two different directions. And so that's not possible as long as you're alive. And so that's pretty much what Pisces represents. It's going in one fish is going in one direction, the other fish is going the other direction. Selflessness, but in doing that, you know, you have to involve the ego still. And so Pisces, you know, can be very contradictory in that sense. Okay. And so that is the whole zodiac. So I think that's very important in order to get an idea of, let's see, okay, to get an idea of the different, you know, the whole zodiac, how it fits together. And especially if you are just learning, I think it's really important in order to have the bigger picture, how these signs actually, you know, create this whole cycle. So I'm going to really start looking at a chart. So we have a few people. Okay, yes, I know that some of you already shared your info with me, but I honestly didn't enter any because I wanted to make sure that you were here for the call and I wanted it to be authentic in that way. So please be patient with me. I'm about to put in one of your charts. And so if you have any specific questions, please let me know. And please let me know if you have any questions about what I just talked about. Okay, so first I'm going to look at Anna's. Okay, so December 25th. Okay, so it's quite easy to enter data. So I want to make sure that you send me the time. Okay. Wonderful. All right. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so I'm going to screen share again. So we're going to start with Anna. We're going to look at Anna's chart. So Anna, you are a Capricorn on the cusp. You're very close to Sagittarius. And as you can see in this picture, there's a lot of Sagittarius energy. And so, okay, please let me know if you have any specific questions. I know I'm kind of jumping right now because I just jumped from something very basic, which was just the signs. And I'm moving on to the actual reading of a chart. So if you are confused at all, please let me know. Okay, essentially, I'm going to explain here. These are houses. So if you have heard people talk about your rising sign, that's the number 1 right here. That's your ascendant. And so let me see. Okay, so the sun energy is essentially your essence. It's what you come into this world as. And so you can see the sun right here. It's this circle with the dot in the middle. That's the sun energy, you know. And so the sun needs to shine bright. And so essentially how you shine is through Capricorn. And as I explained in the last segment, Capricorn is about that project. So you are a very practical person. But it's interesting because you have different signs. Here's Mercury and Venus and Uranus in Sagittarius. And so that Sagittarius energy comes before Capricorn, as you can see right here, Sagittarius and then Capricorn. And Sagittarius is about seeing the bigger picture. And so while Capricorn is about that project and, you know, that is a bit of that ego space of like, well, what am I developing? What am I showing into the world? Sagittarius is then a more philosophical, expansive sign that is very also eager to explore and eager to hear new ideas and and discover more of the world, right? And so, okay, I'm just gonna keep just doing the signs. I don't think I'm gonna get into houses right now, but for example, as you can see here, here's the moon. And so what happens is each sign is associated to a certain constellation, and each planet, when you're born, is within a constellation, and that's what gives it then its personality. So of course you're seeing, you know, we're talking about the sun shining bright in Capricorn, and Mercury and Venus and Neptune, excuse me, are all in Sagittarius. And so all of these planets have that Sagittarius energy. Even though each planet has its own personality, it's kind of like the theme, you know, I guess you could say it's kind of, you know, just this metaphor I just thought of. For example, you know, people from Colombia will have these ways of acting, but of course each person is going to be different. Does that make any sense? Like, it's kind of an extra tone added to the planet, and so that gives it its own unique personality, even though the planet already has a certain personality. And then the moon then isn't a planet actually, but it's very important because it's like the yin side. So while the sun is the yang, the moon is the yin. And here it's especially amplified because it's in Cancer. And so, you know, as I mentioned, Cancer is family. And so if you imagine the moon, yin energy, you know, the mother, then that is so like, the moon is in Cancer, is in its home space. That's its home sign. It feels good there. It's all about emotions and nurturing. And that's essentially what the moon energy is. And so this is a great example to also explain, you know, that since each planet and luminary has its own personality, then that personality that it already has is even more amplified with a certain sign that equals the planet's personality. So in this case, the moon rules Cancer already, and because it's in Cancer, then that energy is even more strengthened. So moving on, okay, and so then I can explain, for example, the, you know, each planet and luminary has its own energy and its own archetype. And so, for example, Mercury, is its archetype is a messenger. And so in mythology, you know, you can look back at the messenger and, you know, understand that it's all about getting information from one place to another, you know, as the messenger does. And so Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius is also very strong because Sagittarius is the opposite of Gemini. So as you can see here, Gemini is exactly opposite Sagittarius here. And so even though it's not in its homes, the planet is not in its home sign, it is in a way very similar to its home sign, because Sagittarius is all about that kind of communication in a more expansive way, in a more philosophical way. So Gemini is like this, a more superficially, like, I'm just trying to communicate one thing over here and just want to make sure that that connection happens over here too. But then Sagittarius is all about, okay, what is the bigger picture, right? And so in that sense, it very much allows, you know, it balances out that Capricorn energy. And it's interesting because it's important, since the moon is in Cancer, to really allow that Cancer to flourish as well. You know, you have the practical side of Capricorn and the philosophical side of Sagittarius in these different planets. Then the moon is very sensitive, so you want to make sure that the moon is really being listened to and really being nourished. So I'm going to look really fast to see if any of you have questions. Okay. So really fast, I guess I'll just finish with the planets here. Okay, so you have the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Mercury is the messenger, Venus, then is the planet of beauty and romance. So essentially Venus is the planet of beauty. I like to see it, beauty and harmony. So of course we know a lot about also the archetype of Venus, the history, I guess, the story of Venus, and she's all about beauty, or all about keeping a harmony in a space, in a person, in a situation. And so what is it that allows you to see beauty in your life? That's the Sagittarius energy here. So Venus here in the sign of Sagittarius would be all about experiencing beauty through expansion of thoughts and ideas, and especially experiences, just constantly wanting to experience more and constantly wanting to be challenged by your own ideas. That would be the energy of Venus in Sagittarius. Then after Venus is Mars, and Mars is right here in Leo, also in its home sign, so that energy is also amplified. So you have a lot of fire. Okay, I hadn't discussed fire yet. We have 4 elements within our chart, which is fire, earth, and water, and air. So the sun energy, because it shines so brightly, so here that Capricorn is going to be very strong. And in a way dominant, because that's the sun sign, right? But then because you have so many planets in fire, then that energy is also very strong. So that fire, so Leo in Mars in Leo is all about playfulness, it's all about shining your gifts to the world, really putting yourself out there and wanting to be seen, wanting to be noticed. And a lot of times this Leo energy can be seen as very, self-centered, which it can be. But honestly, a good way to look at Leo is that you want to shine bright and you want to see because you know what you have to offer. It's like you know what your value is, right? So that's that Leo energy. And so in Mars, this is extra helpful in understanding the energy of Mars, because Mars is the warrior planet. You have a strong sense of drive in this sense. You have a strong sense of purpose. And you're just, you have so much fire wanting to push forward and get things done and explore and do. And, and that Capricorn is great energy in terms of grounding it all and making it happen and putting it into a certain project. So from there, Mars, you have Jupiter. Jupiter is conjunct the moon. Okay, so the more advanced terminology, but essentially, it's on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer. So, we're talking about the moon in Cancer being sensitive and emotional, but in a way it isn't so strongly so because it's close to Gemini. So but it's still in Cancer. But right now, what you can see is, especially Jupiter is closer to Gemini. And so it's that energy, it's between the energy of nurturing and communication. It's just strengthened. Like, that's how you grow. And Jupiter then is that sign of expansion, it's a sign of growth, it's a sign of expanding horizons. And then from there, Saturn is also on the cusp of Leo and Virgo. So Saturn is also would amplify the Leo energy and the Virgo energy, so it's more earth as well. And Saturn then wants to ground things. Saturn is a sign of limitations. And in Virgo, then it's, it's perfect because Virgo is a sign of discipline. It's a sign of order. It's a sign of daily to-dos. So that just aligns perfectly. And so I suppose, let me see if you have any questions. Okay, wonderful. I'm really glad this is helpful. Okay, one question. When it comes to partners, what are the best way to find if our partnership is going to work out for the long term is your concern? Okay. When it comes to partners, what are the best way to find out? Okay. So that gets more complex into the reading of the chart, but a wonderful way to tell if something like that, a specific question like that, would be to look at your Venus, for example. And so here you can see Venus. So this is, this is I was saying it's a more complicated question because then it gets into the whole concept of houses, which I didn't really discuss. But essentially you look at the house. So here Venus is in the second house, and the second house is the house of values. So in that sense, you can look and say, well, that if you're looking for a more long-term relationship, that's actually quite helpful, because the second house is this house of values. It's a house associated with Taurus. And so Taurus is a more, loyal sign, because it knows what it values. It knows what it wants. It knows, its possessions, like I was talking about before. It knows what it has, what's yours, what's mine. And so in that sense, it's more likely this Venus, even though it's a Sagittarius and wants to experience a lot, it's in the realm of knowing what it has. And so in that sense, it could even be that Anna, you may be a kind of person who is drawn toward also people who have a good sense of money and have a good sense of that grounding, and probably even a business enterprise or something of the sort. Or maybe, just, it's interesting here because Mercury and Venus, since they're so close together, that energy is amplified. And so it's very much, like looking for a partnership that also values communication and is exciting and allows you to really constantly expand your horizon. So there's so many ways you can take this, but essentially those values are always important for you. Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to look at another chart. Okay. Sablai. Okay, will you repeat what you said about Virgo? Yes. Shoot, I'm not sure which other one you wanted me to review, Loli, but Virgo, what I said about Virgo in the past was that she's the Virgin and she's all about discipline and order. And so it's not really the sign that wants to, it's not really like, okay, what's my career? What's my purpose? It's, and one way to understand Virgo is also it's ruled by the planet Mercury. And so Mercury, in Gemini, like I was saying before, see Gemini's right here and Sagittarius is down here. And so Sagittarius is, also wants to experience, but it's looking for a bigger meaning, whereas Gemini is all about just that communication. So in that sense, since Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, then Virgo has a sense also of like, okay, just give me the details and I'm good. It's not really trying to like think too much into things, not really trying to figure out like its true meaning, its true life path or anything necessarily. If you're a Virgo and you are, then you have to look at your whole chart. But Virgo in itself is like, okay, I'm gonna get up in the morning and then I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and has a tendency to schedule, especially Virgo women. And obviously everything becomes more complex the more you understand it, but I hope that was helpful. Like Virgo is just trying to organize and look at the details and really categorize more than really getting deeply. Okay, so I'm gonna look at Camila's. So I'm gonna add another one. So if you just wait one moment as I add. So you can see how this website works as well. Okay. I don't really know why I asked gender, honestly, but I think it's just so that it can refer to you as he or she as when it does its interpretations. And monkey Poland. Right. This is so awesome. I wish I had like hours here to just read everybody's. Okay, I hope it recognizes. There we go. Let's see. Okay, that should be it. Right, 5:20 p.m. Perfect. Okay, that should be fine. So I'm gonna pull up the chart. So let me know if you have any other questions, of course. Okay, so here comes yours. I almost feel like I should do these weekly. I'd be so happy to like weekly just look at different people's charts. It'd be so much fun. Okay, let me know if that sounds awesome to you as well. Okay, so wonderful. Camila, you are, okay, so here's the sun. You are also a Capricorn, very close to Aquarius. So you have a little bit of Aquarius energy as well. And as we can see here, the planets are very much in Capricorn. A lot of planets in Capricorn. And so, as we just looked at another Capricorn as well, that's so grounded and so very career focused as well. And it's all about, the actual building, like I was describing before, the architects. So we're going to review the planets again. So, we have the sun that wants to shine, and Capricorn is all about what is my life path, what is my project. The moon, so the sun is the yang energy, that bright sun, solar, more masculine, and the moon is the yin, feminine energy. And here it is in Libra. So we have sun in Capricorn, moon in Libra, and that is so interesting because right now in the stars we're actually switched. So we're actually at moon in Capricorn and sun in Libra. So I don't know if you sense the energy today, but for example, Libra is so much about going with the flow. It's ruled by the planet of Venus, so it's all about that beauty and all of this. And Capricorn is, that grounded, like, okay, what's next? What's the future? And so that sense, it's interesting. I could see how it could be that energy is difficult because there are so many signs in Capricorn. That that energy is kind of like, but wait, I think it also, if you learn to hone in on it, then it could help you ease up a bit, because that outwardly, like, all these planets are wanting to really get out there, put your project out there, move it forward, be dedicated. How are you, really raising your standards and moving forward? And then this Libra, that inner child, the inner emotions that you inside of you is saying, no, but I'm just, wanting to experience beauty in the world. I just want, my environment to be in harmony. And Capricorn doesn't want that at all. Capricorn doesn't even really know what that is. It's because it's so that vision, it's like, let's make this vision concrete. Let's really set clear boundaries on things. And Libra doesn't have those clear boundaries. So they can really create a certain tension. So as you can see, for example, Mercury is in Capricorn, so the planet of communication, then that energy is like, okay, when I communicate, it's in a very concrete way. So you have a tendency, maybe you you communicate through your life project, or whenever you communicate, it has to be some like clear, defined way. And sometimes if it's not that way, then you have trouble communicating at all. Venus is, you know, it's on the cusp of Aquarius, which is quite nice. And, you know, of course, the sun also is on the cusp of Aquarius. So it is more a little, it's not as intense as Capricorn can be. So if you were in mid Capricorn, the energy would be stronger, but it is lightened up, especially with Venus now more on the cusp. So Venus, you know, wants to experience things through that meaningful, like, what am I doing? What am I showing to the world way? And then the Aquarius, the air energy, lightens it up a bit and wants it, you know, is more in touch with like, okay, what do I really want to do at this moment? But since that most of the planets are in Capricorn, the energy goes more toward that earth groundedness. Mars is in Sagittarius, and as I mentioned briefly, the house is in the 5th house, and so that all strengthens that fire energy. So that's wonderful, because that allows you also to think more about that bigger vision, and not so, you know, like your drive is more like, okay, wait, but there is something more important to this, you know. I have my life project and, you know, my ideas about where I want to be headed, you know, maybe like in creating a family and having a career, you know, like very concrete ideas, and especially ideas that look good in society. That's why I say things like creating a family and have a career, just because Capricorn has a tendency of like, you want your family, you want society, you want all these different entities to be proud of you, to like look at you and, you know, admire you, I guess, but not even look at you, but just admire all that you've created, because you're the architect. And so Mars in Sagittarius is more like, yeah, but I know that, you know, there's this bigger philosophy to things. And then it's in the 5th house, so of course it's more playful, you know. 5th house, which is associated with Leo, is, you know, Leo, that energy of play, of just wanting to get your gifts out there and you know, bring more joy to the world. And okay, so that Mars, Jupiter up here in Cancer. We just came out of Jupiter in Cancer, actually, so you were just like in your element in that sense. So that also strengthens that Capricorn energy, because you see Capricorn is right opposite Cancer. So Cancer is that motherly energy and Capricorn is that fatherly energy. And so when they're opposite, like the fact that they're opposite each other, they're still very family oriented. So Cancer is more family oriented in a motherly kind of way, and Capricorn in a fatherly kind of way, which means Cancer wants to nurture, wants to give you food, it wants to know how you feel. And then a Capricorn is more about like creating a family, you know, in a more concrete material way of like, okay, you know, creating family means I gotta have the house, and that means, you know, we have to have all the tools and everything set up for this family, you know, in a very material way. And then Jupiter, Saturn is out here also in Capricorn, and so that energy is so strong, because Saturn is all about limitations, all about like, okay, let's get serious about things, let's really ground things, you know. Saturn is the planet of Capricorn, so here Saturn is really strong, especially because it's in the 6th house, this house of work. So you are so grounded, you're very like, you know about reality, you're so conscious about reality, and you're very conscious about your material value in the world. And so that is helpful in getting things done and really pushing forward. You will definitely get far, you know, especially, and you are getting far. I know you are. You're doing amazing things. So Sagittarius is also that energy of moving forward and having big visions. So that contributes to all of that energy of like, okay, I have big ideas. and I'm going to make sure they happen, you know. And so luckily, because Saturn in Capricorn in the 6th house, you know, you're going to ground them and you're going to make them happen. So that's so helpful. And to finish off the planets, then we have Uranus, also in Capricorn. And so Uranus in Capricorn is also tones down the Uranus. So Uranus itself is a planet of erratic change, of like, you know, when something isn't really working for you. And in general, in the stars, when the Uranus energy is strong, Uranus will kick you out of situations, you know, or suddenly make, or just create these emotions in you that make you realize like, whoa, this isn't working for me. So the fact that Uranus is in Capricorn tones down the energy, so you don't feel like that so strongly, you know. So that also allows you to just continue forward, because you're not, you know, you don't have like these crazy sudden impulses. You know, you're much more consistent in that sense. Pluto is in Scorpio, and Pluto is the planet of transformation. So here it's in its element as well, in the sign of Scorpio. So you do very much evolve through. So as you're, you know, you're dedicated to your career path, you're dedicated to your life project, and Pluto, you know, within that realm, you still very much transform, and you still very much, you know, are probably curious about more occult things, you know, and there might be a part of you that you are aware of, you know, especially like Jupiter and Cancer is the water. So those could help you like realize, like, you know, every once in a while you might have like your energy peaked and your interest peaked, and realize like, whoa, there are other things that really interest me in the situation, you know. And so that's energy to look into in order to make sure that the transformation does happen, and you don't get so caught up in work and, you know, in the day-to-day accomplishments, that you do recognize that your soul is very much evolving. Okay, wonderful. I'm so glad this is helping you all. Okay. And then finally, let's see, Pluto. And so then these other two, I'm just going to explain them real quick. Chiron, or Chiron, as some people say, and the North Node. So Chiron is the wounded healer, and it's in Cancer. So here, this energy is also about the wounded healer wants to heal with nourishment. Also amplifies that Capricorn energy, because Capricorn is also about nourishment. You know, it's very much about like having what it needs. Capricorn recognizes, you know, because it recognizes, I need the house, I need, you know, these things to make me happy, that is so aware of its needs, you know. And so Capricorn also amplifies the energy, and because it's in the wounded healer is in Cancer, then, you know, that allows one to look at their wounds and understand that, you know, for example, in this case, you know, a lot of that healing comes through, you know, being softer on yourself and getting in touch with feelings and family orientation, and getting also, you know, because what you do unto others is what you do unto yourself, I suppose. Like Cancer, you know, for healing to happen, it's also very much about nourishing emotions, you know, and all of these things. But since the wounded healer, sometimes it's hard to tap into that energy, and we may have it more in the corner hidden, but it's definitely there. And then North Node is actually my favorite to read, and because it's our karma in this life. And so that is the end of this chart. Okay, wonderful. So any other questions? So this was very spontaneous, and I do want to share that I do the private readings or one-on-one readings, and we can go a lot deeper into your chart if you're interested. So far I have been doing them by donation, and I'm just wanting to feel that out and seeing, because I'm not sure quite how to charge for that. So being very transparent here. And other than that, if you have any other questions, please let me know. There's still 8 minutes left, so I'd love to answer anything else. Oh no, someone just said you can't see the chart on the video. Oh my gosh, I really hope that isn't true. Okay. Let me see. So there's one more chart. I definitely won't get to it in 8 minutes. So if you, I mean, I just wanted to look up the chart. Let me see. Screen share. Okay. I think I just saw what happened. Oh no. Okay. So for the last 7 minutes, I guess I could describe the houses more to you. One thing I didn't really discuss, since I didn't discuss houses very much, was the rising energy. And so it's rising. So the first house goes up to the 12th house. Yeah, and so when someone says, for example, in this case, I have Leo rising, it's that planet and that sign, or sorry, not the planet, the sign demonstrates what the energy that is most external. So when you have, for example, here Leo rising, then your most external energy is Leo energy. It's all about, that rising is about what you most radiate out, most externally, yeah? So first impressions have to do with this energy. It has to do with how people see you, because it's your most external energy. So in this case, you know, it might be even that people perceive, you know, a Leo rising to be very self-centered and to be all about themselves, you know, or just to be a very loving and a loving person who is not afraid to have the attention because they know what they have to offer. And so that is rising energy. And so then it goes deeper, because then, as we were talking about the houses, each house has its theme, and ultimately they allow one to see the different themes that one is really working on. So if you have any other questions. Okay, so thank you so much, Loli. Okay, do you recommend any books about astrology? Oof. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind, because I can't think of any off the top of my head right now. But essentially, I mean, personally, I kind of read everything. I've been studying astrology for years now, but I don't even read that much about it. What I do is I ask what people's signs are, and then I associate the signs with the certain things that I pick up about them that make sense. That's essentially how I got started. It was like, okay, you're a Pisces, let me think, okay, this is what I know about Pisces, that means you are like this. The person would say, oh, that part's true, and that part's not true, and we just talk about it. And so then, especially when I didn't even really register onto the site. What I did was I would just look up people's rising and moon signs, and then I would start getting more into it like that. And so I highly recommend, okay, hold on one second. I highly recommend getting an account with Astral.com, and that's where you can really look into the different charts and understand the placements and really start reading about it. And so if you are wanting to delve into your own personal chart, then once again, I give private readings, and then I'm also looking at even doing this, I don't know, once a week, once a month, I'm not sure, because I really love to do this, and I'm really glad that it was helpful to you all. So let me know any comments or suggestions about how I can improve this. I highly appreciate it. So one more time, I'm going to check to see if there are any more questions. It doesn't look like there are more questions. Okay, is the mixture of my signs descriptive? Describe a person that will be successful. I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Is the mixture of my signs describe a person that will be successful? I think, I mean, since you say my signs, then I would have to look at your individual chart to be, ultimately we all, okay, I think I understand. So if I look at your chart and I explain to you your whole chart, am I going to describe someone who is success? Like, okay, essentially, yes, because you have the ability to transform everything in your chart. So the idea is to never be limited by astrology and never be limited by, you know, what the signs say about you. You should not ever be constrained, feel constrained to the different signs, because every sign has its possibility for expansion. And essentially what under the archetype is only a window to the possibility. So the mixture of it, yes, definitely explains your certain weaknesses, certain strengths. And so what I do is I give a reading in which I can really look at how you can combine those to be successful, essentially, because that is your life journey. It's all about you learning and growing. And so even your weaknesses are your strengths in that sense. And so it's all about first starting with the ability to observe and understand, and then from there really being able to apply it. And so that is all. It is 9:59, and thank you all so much for being a part of this. I'm really happy that we all made this happen. So I look forward to being in touch with you and to hear any feedback, questions, comments. Much love to you all.